Hello everyone. So welcome to the channel of RD Automation Learning. So in this video, we will be telling you about test plan and test strategy. Now these two are very important questions that are asked in an interview. Also, you would have to explain in an organization also. So whenever you are working in an organization and you're working on some project, so over there you can be assigned the task to create test plan or test strategy, right? So what we are going to do is today we are going to see what is test plan and what is test strategy with the help of real-time example, right? And this is a digital product also that we have just created today. You would get in this product the test plan for e-commerce website with all components, test strategy for e-commerce website with all components. So various components are there. There are nearly 10 to 15 components for test plan as well as for test strategy. So all those things we have incorporated in this single product. The explanation is given in a very simple language, in a very layman terms, that even a person who is from a non-IT background or someone who is a fresher would be able to understand this concept, and they would be able to explain in an interview also, and they would be able to implement such kind of things in their organization. Because many a times what happens is you are working in a small scale companies, you're working in a startups. Those companies might not be having lead level or kind of a manager kind of people. So you at a very junior level, you have to create those kind of strategies, those kind of approach, right? So these things can be explained, these things can be understood from this document itself. And what is the difference between the two, test plan and test strategy, right? So that thing we have explained in this document. So it's available at a very nominal cost, right? And the link of this particular document we would be providing in the comment section of the video itself. Now let's go to the explanation. Okay. So what I have done is I have created this particular test plan for e-commerce website, and here we have taken an example of Amazon.com. So first, let us understand what is test plan. Okay, so what does test plan contain? So test plan will contain the testing approach and the different activities that you and your team would be undergoing, would be performing as a part of end-to-end testing in this particular project. Okay, so the test plan would include functional testing, it would include security, and it would include performance testing also, and it would include various testing levels and testing types that you would need to sign off that particular application or software with the minimum bugs, or you can say with no P0, P1 bugs. Okay, so now let us start with the objectives. So whenever you create the test plan for any project or any application, you will have to come up with the objectives. So what is the objective? So in your resume, you are mentioning at the very top objective. What is the objective of getting a job? Why do you need a job? Why do you want to start your career in the field of software testing, right? So we have 4 objectives that we have mentioned here. And see, this test plan is designed with a real-time example, considering Amazon.com has been given for testing, right? So similarly, if you have some investment banking domain application, or you get some civil engineering based application, or you get some application related to healthcare, medical, so you can incorporate those things using this particular template. So content will change, the template you can reuse in your organization also. So objective 1 is validate functionality and usability. So as a tester, as an end user for Amazon.com, the first objective is you need to verify whether all the functionality is working end to end properly. It should work with a seamless user experience. Second objective, secure payment processing. In an e-commerce website, what holds the very important thing, a payment plays a very vital role, right? It holds a very important thing. So you need to ensure that whatever payment functionality has been incorporated, it should be secured, it should be reliable. It should not happen that it is not working properly, because this functionality is a core, it's a heart of an application. So it should be robust, it should be secure, it should be reliable. Third objective is performance under user loads. So if you are testing, if you are using this application website with multiple users, if you are testing it with multiple amount of load, then how is the response of the application? So that is the objective. So you need to test the performance and responsiveness of the application. Objective 4, compatibility verification. So ensuring that the website is working fine in various browsers, devices. So it should help in accessibility, it should help in usability. So those things are the objectives. Scope. It is very important that you define scope in your test plan, because what happens in a real-time company, sometimes that you complete the testing, you sign off that particular project, and when you are on a client calls or when you are on a calls with stakeholders, you come to know, oh, this was supposed to be tested, but it is missed from your end. Now, how can you avoid getting into such kind of situations? You cannot argue with the people who are at a level of stakeholder. So it is better to create a test plan and to include and to mention the features to be tested and features not to be tested. So inclusions with respect to Amazon.com, it is product browsing, search functionality, shopping cart, checkout process, user account management. User account, again, it holds both creation of new account, deletion of older accounts, using existing accounts, updating existing accounts, all those things. Inclusions. What is exclusion? So third party integration that are not being considered into the scope of testing. For example, if you are using some third party library or some third party integration has been done in your payment functionality, so those are excluded. So you need to come on the same page with the management, with the stakeholders, with the clients, that this you're not going to test. So it is very important that you keep such things upfront and you both are on the same page. As a part of test plan, you can mention here inclusions and exclusions, right? Features to be tested, features not to be tested, right? So product search functionality. So this is about inclusions, exclusions, scope. With respect to scope, in some companies you will be asked with respect to scope, right? In some companies you have to define as features, because you would be getting modules. In some companies you would be incorporated, you will be playing at a very first phase itself, you would be involved in the very first phase itself, right? So both the things are same. It depends from companies to companies which one you are going to take. So we have mentioned both here. Test deliverables. So as a part of test plan, it is very important that you mention which are the different testing artifacts, which are the different testing documentations that you are going to provide to them. So test cases, yes, detailed level of test cases in which you will cover positive as well as negative scenarios of covering the functionality of the e-commerce website. Then you will have test scripts. So you have automated, you have manual test scripts for various features. Then you have reports. So for example, you might be creating a defect related report. You might be covering the test summary reports. So what does this report contains? This report will contain how many test cases are been there, total number of test cases, how many are executed, how many are pending. Are we good with the timeline with respect to the timeline? For example, you have committed, you would be performing nearly 40 to 50 test case execution per day, for an example. So now 10 days are left and you are left with 400 or 450 test cases. So you are on time, right? So it will also have various outcomes, various test result documentation that you need to prepare. For example, for some particular user story, you would be providing the test result documents in which, again, you would be capturing the snippets or screenshots of the testing that you have done. You would be capturing the evidence, the proof of the testing you have done with various important scenarios. So those also would come in the documentation. So test deliverables, what you are going to deliver from the testing perspective, all these things would be there. And whenever you are going for release, all these things should be updated. So for example, in test cases, you will have a column of whether you have performed testing on various environments like QA, staging. So those columns, those data should be updated. The data with respect to date and time. If any test step or any test case has got reopened multiple times, then there should be multiple entries of the build in which you have tested. That's how the evidence, that's how you will prove to the management that yes, this much amount of testing has been done, this much amount of cycles has been done, right? So that's how the test deliverables play a vital role. Entry and exit criteria. Now, when will you start testing? When will you stop testing? This is again an interview based question, and it is very important that you cover these aspects in test plan also. So entry criteria, so completion of development, availability of test environment, that is entry criteria. In some organizations, they do mention unit test case coverage at 40-45%, and then only the testing would start. In some organization, they might come up with the expectation that all the acceptance criteria mentioned in the user story should be working fine, or all the functional scenarios, all the functional part of the acceptance criteria should be working fine for some particular user stories. And then we'll focus on non-functional. So those are entry criteria. It depends from organization to organization, but based on standard and best practices, we have created this document. Exit criteria: no critical defects outstanding, no P0, no P1, no regression bugs, right? Performance benchmarks achieved. So those are exit criteria. Resource planning: how many testers are going to be involved in this project? What is the count of those people? And how about automation testers? How about manual testers? If you're going for automation, then which programming language is going to be used? What is the framework? So those kind of resource planning will play a role here. Responsibilities is test case creation, execution, defect reporting, development support. Then you have test data. So test data creation. So for that, you would need real-time test data. So maybe you can connect, if you are working in a service-based company, you can connect with the business team, or you can connect with the people who are testing at the client side, and you can ask them to help you with the real-time production-wise test data. So those kind of test data creation and scenarios. Then defect management. So process for defect identification, reporting, tracking, and resolution. So that all comes in defect management, right? Which tool you would be using for defect management? What are the different stages of bug lifecycle that you would take as a part of this plan? So that is important. Now, what would be the testing approach? So in the first slide, we explained you about the testing approach and testing levels, right? So testing levels is you need to cover integration system. Yes. So developer team will be covering unit testing. So if you are working in some company where you are having white box testing responsibility, then you need to cover unit testing. So unit testing, integration system, UAT, and then testing types. Which are the different testing types that you will be doing? Functional, non-functional, regression, performance, security. Testing techniques. Which are the different testing techniques that you will be using? So for example, in order to write the test cases in any tool or in Excel file, you might be using testing techniques like boundary value analysis, equivalence partitioning, cyclomatic complexity, state transition diagram. So which are those testing techniques that you will be using to increase your test case coverage and to ensure that you get regression issues in your testing cycles? Test environment. With respect to environments, how many environments you will have? One is dev, one might be QA, one might be staging, right? One might be production environment, one might be user acceptance testing environment. So all these environments, which environments you would use, what are the hardware capabilities that you would be utilizing? So servers, databases, client machines, if you are using any VMs, whether those are AWS, whether those are Azure, Rackspace VMs, which are the different softwares that you are going to use? Any browsers based softwares you are going to use, operating systems, then e-commerce platforms. And if you are having the testing on mobile devices, then Android, iOS devices, right? Network connections, internet connections for real world testing scenarios. So those are the environment. You need to mimic the kind of environment that you are going to get in the production so that you are able to catch those level of defects. Then the different types of testing that you will be performing: performance testing, security testing, user acceptance testing, right? The different types of testing that you will be performing. Resource planning, roles and responsibilities, right? So earlier we saw the count of people. Now, who will be doing what? So for example, if there is a lead, or if there is a manager person, or if there is a BA, then what would be the role of them? Who would review the test cases? And what is the responsibility of each and every person, right? So you cannot tell every person to write test cases. You cannot tell every person to execute the test cases. There will be some differences between the junior and the senior people based on their responsibilities that you will assign to them. So some people, if they are senior, and if they have good product knowledge, you will be telling them to maybe design the test cases so that their product knowledge is being utilized in creation of those test cases. Okay, so that is resource planning. Risk management, risk and mitigation. So if any risk is going to happen, so that you need to highlight in the test plan itself. So for example, if you are not having sufficient test data, so those things you can highlight in as a part of test plan. For example, you might be testing only with 90 to 95 test data for now. So those you need to highlight as a part of e-commerce. The expectations are to test with more test data, with more variety of test data. But as of now, we are getting only 90 to 95. We don't get more diverse or with test data with more permutations and combinations. So there is an insufficient test data. Risk two, third party integrations. What if the third party DLL or the third party library goes down, right? What if they are no longer active? What if we get bugs in the third party library and there is time it has been taken from those particular companies or parties to fix those things? Those are third party integrations, right? So those kind of risk and how the plan would be there for mitigation, that you need to involve in the test plan itself. Okay, so this was about test plan. Now we will also see about test strategy, right? But before that, if you're watching this video for the very first time, then please do hit like, share, and subscribe our channel. So test strategy is also included in the same document. So in one single document, we have included both test plan as well as test strategy, and what is the difference between the two. So here you can see the objectives of test strategy. It would be different from test plan. Testing scope, testing levels, right? Testing techniques of in this test strategy. Then you will get test environment, test data and schedule. What are the different test data that you will have? Again, testing types would be here. That would be there. Resource planning, risk management, continuous integration and deployment, review and approval. Then what is the difference between test planning and test strategy? Those things has been also mentioned in the same product. So this product is kept at a very nominal cost, right? We are not charging something in hundreds or thousands. The cost is very nominal. So if you are looking for some particular document, dedicated document for both test plan, test strategy, then this is the key. You can see the differences also has been mentioned here, right? With respect to various aspects. So that covers this particular document. So this is around 28 pages of 30 pages of document that you get at a very nominal cost on our TopMate URL. And I'll be putting the URL also in the comment section of the video. So you can go through test plan, test strategy. You can give these kind of answers in an interview if being asked. You can also use this template in your organization, in your companies, to create the test plan, test strategy. Right. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching this video and stay tuned for more updates.